Hi, welcome to my garden. Bermuda grass. It's some wonderful stuff if you're feeding cows. Not so good around the edges of the garden. Now, I never said I didn't weed. I just said I didn't like to weed. And the reason I adopted this deep mulch method is because I didn't like to weed. But there are plants that have survival mechanisms that make it a challenge. Come on, let's see what we got. These runners will try and get in wherever they can. We've got a friend from England that talked about grass sneaking in. His solution was you just keep working on it, and pretty quick that root will die out if you keep the green part pulled out. But you can just see the little runners, and this is all off of one piece of grass that's forking out, branching out, but then wherever it touches, it tries to put in some more roots. Kind of like sweet potato vines, which I don't mind being invasive because they make more sweet potatoes. But right here around the edge, if you see, I got well over 4 inches of mulch right there. This particular side of the fence has been kind of a challenge. I come through every little bit, pull up what I can. There's a whole lot less here than there was. Now, I never put the Bermuda back as a cut and drop or into the compost pile. I don't want to give it any chance to reroot. You want to get those runners out as much as you can. You got to work at it just a little bit. Even if you have to pull the mulch back a little bit. But since these are in the mulch, they come up very easily. The more of these runners you can get out, the faster you can get this killed out. And see, that's just the main part of this plant. It's got some small roots, but it puts out tons of runners. And once I got the main plant out, these runners came out pretty easy. The important thing is, if you see grass coming up, get after it. The rule of thumb when you're starting out, you want this at least 4 inches thick or thicker. Now 4 inches is the minimum. When I remulch a foot to a foot and a half, almost 2 feet thick in some areas, depending on how much the wheelbarrow has in it. Just make a pile, and you have to have it at least 4 inches minimum. That's well over 4 inches tall. Now the grass, wood chips, and leaves are all well over a foot thick. Now this, we dig down, there might be, this thing's still pretty thick right here. And I got probably maybe 3 inches. But you got weeds coming up through here. Well, yes and no. These are dandelions, you can eat the leaves. And you can eat the flowers. We usually have 3 or 4 really nice specimens, kind of like what we have here. We let those grow. Dock is another one. That comes in voluntarily. The beauty of dandelions or dock, they've got really long tap roots that help the soil a lot. But if you need to plant something else there, you just pull them up. Here's another one of our edible ground covers that we're trying this year. That's purslane. Makes these beautiful little flowers that bring in the pollinators. Just like any other ground cover that we're talking about. You want to plant a plant, we'll just dig a hole, we'll just remove some of this and plant right in there. But right behind our purslane, we've got something else that we've been dealing with. And I don't believe this is a seed we brought in with the mulch. This is a tree. And I pull these out everywhere I find them. But it appears to me we've got runners from trees in the woods around us that have made it into the garden. They've started popping up little treelings, tree seedlings. And right here is a great example of why I know we didn't bring this in with some kind of seed. What makes this challenging, when these pop up here right around the tomatoes, I don't really want to pull them out too much and mess with the tomato roots. This one was far enough away, but that's a couple things I found in the deep mulch. You really can't tell how thick this mulch is by just looking at it from the surface. When I put this down this fall, it was well over a foot thick. I know it's less because I got some grass popping up. But those roots haven't established. Anytime you see any kind of anything growing that you don't want, pop it out, make it part of the mulch. But see, if we dig down, we got just a light little layer. I mean, that soil is still good and soft underneath there. This should be at least this deep. And we got so much growing in here right now, it's tough to get in here with a wheelbarrow and put any kind of a mount. And that's one of the challenges of the deep mulch, is keeping it deep enough to do what it's supposed to do. But for the most part, it keeps it virtually weed-free. Well, let's look at starting from the beginning. We just started piling grass up, letting it start to break down. It is 1.5 feet tall right here. Basically, all we're gonna do is just spread this out. Get this evened up. As we're turning this, you can see it's breaking down, it's turning dark, we've got some mold going. This is the cold compost. We're not in a hurry. This has been sitting here a while. It's been breaking down, it's been doing its thing. Now, if I was starting a new bed, I would definitely pile this stuff up a foot, maybe 1.5 feet thick. And if I've already started, Bermuda start creeping in, well, you got a bunch of options. You can come through with some kind of herbicide. You can do vinegar, you can do salt water, the combination, some commercial herbicide. That defeats the entire purpose of what we're doing out here. We don't want the chemicals. So now you got a couple manual choices. You can take your trusty pitchfork, pull that mulch back, and remove those roots. Now, depending on how big your area is, that may not be an option. If you have access to a tractor with a box blade, you can just push all of that mulch back up into a pile. If you push it up into a pile, it will heat up and it will take care of some of the roots. You're not guaranteed to get them all. I did get some advice, and I know it works. I haven't used it, but where I set some garbage bags, I was just going to show you where I set these plastic bags. There's some grass around the edge, but there's really nothing growing underneath there. Oh, you want to be careful when you're flipping over boxes. You want to tarp it with black plastic. Hold the ends down with rocks or whatnot. You either want to tarp your entire garden area. We still have at least 2 weeks of good warm weather coming up. That'll heat it up enough that it will kill those roots. Just let it cook underneath there. And sometimes it can seem overwhelming. And then you come out here and you got 2 ears per stalk. It makes it worth it. I got another 2-pound tomato in here and a whole bunch of 1-pounders way up here. The reason we do this is this stuff tastes great. So work at it just a little at a time. Make sure your mulch is thick. Anytime you see anything you don't want in the garden, pull it out and make it part of the mulch. I've been out in the garden a long time. And over the last 5 years with this deep mulch, it's changed the way I see things. Yes, there's some input, but it's nothing like it used to be, and the output is amazing. If you'd like to learn more about the deep mulch, click that link right there and I'll meet you back in the garden. If you'd like to learn about the life in the soil, click that link right there and I'll meet you back in the garden. And until next time, remember, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and God bless you. Come on, let's plant.
Let's go plant garden.